уши для того, чтобы слышать друг друга. И у меня будет вопрос в первую очередь к Марку Уэббу. Если вы позволите, в России эта лента называется «Новый человек-паук». Хотя, будем с вами предельно откровенны, многие зрители, в том числе российские, видимо, ожидают продолжения истории человека-паука. Так вот, у меня вопрос. Почему было принято решение начать идти по вот этому направлению, начать рассказывать эту историю заново?
Speaker here, is this right?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So, I think if you look at the Spider-Man canon, there's 50 years of stories and characters to tell. I think it was very important for me to find new and exciting and engaging material, and I wanted to redefine it in a very specific way. I think in terms of a simple narrative, there's the story of Peter Parker's parents, which we had never seen before. We've seen the origin of Spider-Man. We haven't seen the origin of Peter Parker. And his parents are a really important part of that. And of course, there's the Gwen Stacy saga, and if you're familiar with the comics, that's one of the most interesting, if at times controversial storylines in all of comics, and particularly in Spider-Man. And then, of course, we have the extraordinary villain, Kirk Connors, also known as the Lizard. And these were all things that were important to explore.
Ну что ж, спасибо большое за этот ответ. Ну и, собственно, давайте начнем с кого. Вот, прошу.
Здравствуйте. Вопрос такой. В последнее время стали очень популярными фильмы по комиксам, ну, скажем так, «Штат не вторая жизнь». Вопрос такой, к создателям фильма, как в России. Есть ли какая-то особенная технология снимания фильмов именно по комиксам, именно визуальная какая-то визуальное восприятие этих фильмов?
А вопрос кому? Продюсерам или режиссерам?
Продюсерам или режиссерам?
Technology has advanced light years just in the last few years, I think, particularly for us. Yeah. I'm pushing it, sorry. I don't have super strength, unfortunately. Great, excellent. Perfect, thank you. It's the good enough. Two mics. All right, so I think that the technology is pretty impressive. In fact, it outwits me consistently. But I think, particularly with this film, I think 3D has offered an access point to Spider-Man, which Spider-Man was born for 3D. And I think there's something about the subjective experience of 3 dimensions that makes you feel like you're flying through the air, and that was something that I was really excited to explore. Again, when I'm trying to create a scene or think about a scene, it's very important to empathize with the character, whether that's emotionally or, in this case, physiologically. You can actually sense a new kind of feeling when you're watching a Spider-Man movie, particularly in the second part of the movie when there's a lot more action and flight and velocity and vertigo, and I thought those elements were really important to explore. As far as superhero movies, I think there's just something in the air. I think that heroic impulse is something that we all admire and appreciate, and that's the zeitgeist at the moment. I don't know how to explain it beyond that.
Спасибо. Может быть, Мэтт и Ави добавят что-нибудь относительно вопроса?
The one thing I would add to it, and Mark, you can expound on it, is the use of 3D in the movie was an incredibly exciting thing to take on and challenging. But I think from the very beginning, the way Mark talked about it, and the way he successfully executed, is that it was always a storytelling component. It wasn't just something we were doing because people were making movies in 3D. It obviously looks spectacular, but it's part of the story of Peter Parker. And what Mark was saying about the subjective experience, you feel like Peter. So by the time in the movie that the 3D really is magnified, you know what it feels like to fly. And so it comes along sort of at the right moment. And I think that's a very targeted idea of his. And it's something we're proud of.
Огромное спасибо. Прошу следующего.
Добрый день, Чемоин, АНН. У меня вопрос первый к Эндрю. Эндрю, готовы ли вы сражаться с вами поклонников прежнего Человека-паука, экранизации прежнего Человека-паука? Наверняка вас победят. И вопрос к продюсерам и режиссерам. Нынешний Человек-паук показался гораздо мрачнее, чем предыдущие экранизации. Вы ведете его еще мрачнее? Или были у вас согласия по этому поводу? Куда взрослее будет аудитория или более юношеская? Спасибо.
I'm going to answer first. Yeah, I'm ready to fight anyone who doesn't like me. If anyone in this room, if people don't like me, then that's their business, and that's absolutely fine. And I can't control how they feel. I think they're wrong too. I think I'm a nice person, and I think I treat people well. And I'd be confused and hurt. But I understand because I love Tobey Maguire. And I love him in those Spider-Man movies. He will always be the Spider-Man in my imagination. So I'm going to take your question and make it positive. And I just feel honoured to be stepping into his more than capable shoes. And it's more about the symbol of Spider-Man for me than it is about any actor previously playing it or whatever. But if you want to, we can talk afterwards if you like, and you can tell me how you feel. But no, I just feel honoured to be stepping into this character's shoes and hopefully keeping the kind of the intention of Stan Lee alive with all these great creative people. Thanks for your question.
I think I can take the question about darker. I think our intention was never to make a darker Spider-Man. It was to find a more grounded, more emotionally real version of Spider-Man. I think that what had been done previously was very loyal to especially to the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko comics, and I wanted to create a universe that felt like when you walked out of the theater, you recognized the people and the places around you, so you could find some emotional value that was new and grounded and realistic. That was the mantra, not darker, but more real.
Кстати, про эмоции. А могу я обратиться сейчас к Эндрю вот с какой просьбой? Готовы ли вы в данный момент повторить ту эмоцию, то действие, может быть, или ту мысль, когда вы узнали, что вы утверждены на роль нового человека-паука?
It was a dream come true because I've been waiting for 25 years for that phone call, and finally it came, and I was overwhelmed and was there, and you can attest to that. And Avi and Matt were there, and Amy, and I knew that my life was about to shift in a way that I had no idea how, but I know that it was huge, and here we sit. In Moscow, and it's as surreal now as it was then.
А вы там как-то потерли ладошки, сказали, ой, yes, или еще что-то. Вот каково было первое, вот, когда узнали, все, вы утверждены, и первое действие, что вы сделали?
I think I got drunk.
Спасибо. Следующий вопрос.
У меня два вопроса. Первый вопрос к Марку Уэббу, а второй адресован Эндрю и Эмме Стоун. Марк, вы создали уже однажды очень красивую историю отношений между двумя людьми. Я, конечно же, имею в виду фильм «Лицо Венеты». Хотелось бы узнать, вы не работали для этого очень скромнобюджетными проектами, насколько сложен был переход от предыдущей работы к фильму «Новый человек-паук». И вопрос для Эндрю и Эммы. Вы прекрасно передали характер своих персонажей, действительно история получилась очень реалистичной, разыграли интересную историю отношений. Хотел бы узнать все же, какие-то веселые моменты со съемок сейчас можете вспомнить? Спасибо.
I think actually, for me, it was a very natural transition. I know that sounds weird to say, but it's absolutely true. I think 500 Days of Summer was about creating a universe, about very small moments between people, very intimate little details that make a story. And I wanted to do the same thing with Spider-Man. I wanted to create a foundation of relatability and intimacy and small details. And luckily, I was fortunate to work with actors like Andrew and Emma, who were experts at creating authentic, real, spontaneous moments, and it was I think good enough to build a whole film on. And that's so for me that was it's sort of a natural transition. It took a lot longer than 500 Days of Summer, but it felt oddly natural.
Yes, it was incredible. It was so amazing to work with him and to create those, that story and those minutes. And Mark was really amazing in giving him the way he let us find these things sometimes on a day. He also would sit with us when we would like bring a scene to him and break it all down and build it back up to, you know, the same scene that had been written on the page. But he looked at all the angles with us, and it was really nice to create that authentic first love, teenage, uncomfortable, heartbreakingly awkward, romantic relationship. That is not going to translate well. I'm so sorry.
There's something rare about that when a movie this size, I think, and it's a testament to Mark. It never felt like we were doing a big movie, in whatever that word means. It felt like we were doing a small movie it felt intimate, I think, between all the characters and all the actors, and that was a testament to the environment that Mark set up.
У меня небольшой вопросик к Рису Ивансу, если вы позволите. Я, во-первых, крайне рад и удивлен, что с вашей правой рукой все в порядке. Вот. Небольшой, собственно, вопрос. Что было самого сложного и напряженного, возвращаясь к Эмме Стоун, к ее фактам из жизни съемок? Для вас что было сложное в вашей роли? Push the button, please.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Russia. Yeah, always the most challenging thing is always the most rewarding thing, and the most challenging thing for me was, you know, playing not only a human being with one arm, of which I have two, but playing a human being who becomes a reptile. You know, it's not kind of familiar territory for anyone. So it was just exploring what that transition entails physically and mentally. So it would mean, you know, on some days, you know, visiting some kind of very dark and painful and explored areas within myself. On an emotional level and on a physical level, it sometimes meant sitting in a makeup chair for up to 7 hours with 7 very skilled makeup artists working in detail on me, and the end result of being still for that length of time, certainly for me, is you kind of, you know, find yourself in a suitably unhinged place to deliver the goods.
Спасибо.
Кристиан Бодров, Новости. У меня вопрос к Марку Уэббу и Ави Араду. Скажите, человек-паук, он слишком сильно привязан к Нью-Йорку. Как насчет командировки в другие города? Вот у нас есть неплохие вполне здания.
You've read the script to the sequel, haven't you? Well, I think there's something iconic about New York City. But New York City is an international city, and it's something I think we all know. That's just happened to be where Stan Lee invented the hero. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea. What do you guys think?
Whatever you want to do, sir. Let the director.
Moscow, St. Petersburg, we'll figure it out.
I think we should set it in the desert, because I think that it would be impossible for Spider-Man to function in the desert, because there's no buildings at all. And
swing off a cactus.
Defeated so easily. I think that'd be kind of interesting.
I think the lizards feel very at home in the desert, so look out.
I have 2 questions for Andrew and 1 question for Rhys. Andrew, I just want to say, it's good to know that you've been a Spider-Man since you were 5. I was as well, and I just want to say that you're one of the finest actors of our generation. I've been watching and observing your work since Sugar Rush till Never Let Me Go, and I was really enjoyed it. And first of all, now that it's like Spider-Man 50th anniversary, right? Why do you think he stayed like such an iconic and popular character throughout the years? And my second question is, do you have any favorite Spider-Man story, you know, maybe saga, you know? Thanks.
Thank you for your wonderful compliment and your questions. I discovered a bunch of new sagas that I'd never experienced before, like the McFarlane saga, the Torment saga. I think Mark introduced me to that, and that was insane. I didn't know that Spider-Man existed in that universe, and that art, and that kind of darkness, and that was awesome. And then I led into the Ultimates as well, which I thought were incredible too, for physicality and that kind of teenage angst and wit. And to answer your first question, I don't know why it means so much to so many people. I just know what it means to me, and therefore I assume it means the same to everyone else. I think he's been such a kind of human symbol for generations, and Stan Lee did create something transcendent. And I hope his image is kept alive well after we finish these movies and after another series of movies and another whatever. I just hope that, and I don't think people will stop identifying with him. And there's something globally relatable about him, which is that you don't see any skin color. He's the only superhero that you don't see any skin color. Everything is covered. So around the world, you know, people of all cultures and kids of all cultures can feel like they are him. And I think there's something, and you know, girls, boys, men, women, children, old men, you know, babies. It's for everyone. I think that may be theory, but thank you. Like
You did justice for the character.
Bless you. Thank you.
Rис, and question to you. You're a tremendously actor, you're terrific, and you always have this kind of, you know, mentor quality, like in the Neverland when you play Captain Hook, you play a mentor, and here you're playing a mentor as well. Do you find something interesting in the aspect of playing the father-like figure to other characters?
I think it just means I'm getting older. But yeah, there is a real kind of, I don't have kids myself, I have a stepdaughter who I love very much. Yeah, there is something kind of very, I'm very close to my own father, you know, so there is something very moving in playing someone. When you, I don't know, when you feel it in a generational cue, you know, you feel that when you play a mentor, you feel that you're standing in a long line, you know, an ancient line that is passing on a story. And in this case, it's a 50-year-old story, and a very precious one.
По-моему, это странно. Просто обязан задать вопрос. Кому микрофон? Ну, ребятки, не тянем времени, всего очень мало. Прошу.
Славик Войс, Америка. Ирина, вопрос к Рису Ивансу по поводу его ящера. Обычно актеры, какие бы роли они ни играли, положительные или отрицательные, должны быть адвокатом своему персонажу. Если бы вы были адвокатом и сидели бы в зале суда и защищали бы своего ящера, что бы вы сказали в оправдании его негативного поведения? В 3 словах, как бы вы его защитили?
I would blame the corporation he was working for. I think the real villain in this piece is Oscorp, and I would drag Oscorp through the international courts.
Спасибо за ответ. Движемся дальше. Прошу.
Я хотел задать вопрос продюсерам. Появились новые герои после выходов фильмов «Сумерки» и «Голодные игры». Рассчитываете ли вы на то, что из Эндрю вырастет новый кумир молодежи? Спасибо.
I can answer that. No, absolutely not. No, never.
I think they like it more. And the reason for that is that his character is real. His character is relate to. His character Peter to be a best friend. You inspire to him because Peter has this amazing fulfillment abilities
Спасибо огромное за ответ и
I have a question for Mark and Andrew. What was, for Mark, what was the most challenging scene to shoot, visual effect wise?
I think the most challenging was probably the bridge sequence because it took place over the shooting of it took place over several months, and it required a lot of practical stunts, effects, a child, a computer animated or computer generated lizard, and most importantly had an emotional component to it. I think action sequences at their best contained some sort of emotional thrust, and that was a pivotal moment for Spider-Man, where he's has an epiphany or a transformation emotionally and or realization, and because of that, all those things had to serve a certain emotion, and that's what made it tricky because there was a lot of moving parts in that.
Thank you. And for Andrew, first of all, congratulations on your recent Tony nomination. And what was the most challenging stunt to do for you?
That was a hard day. That was a hard day. Even though I wasn't, in fact, holding that car the whole way to it, I was probably holding about 0.08% of the weight of it, and that was heavy enough. Because you have to look as if the muscles have to be in action, and blood was rushing to my head. I'm not Spider-Man. I'm just